Hello, my name is Mark, and welcome to another episode from MC Airsoft. So today we're going to be discussing whether or not Airsoft does translate into real steel. If you've been on YouTube looking at Airsoft videos over the last couple months, a year, whatever the case is, at the time of recording this, it's been a pretty common topic, right? So I figured partially that I'm going to jump on board, but also there's something with the trend, and there's also some things that I want to talk about that haven't been talked about in a lot of those videos. Now, I'm going to say some things. Obviously, you're welcome to your own opinion on them. And I'm not trying to insult anyone because everyone has their own hobbies and their own things they like to do on the weekends. But, so take everything with a grain of salt and, whatever. So, does it translate? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is kinda. So the short answer being yes. Why is that the case, right? So a big part of real steel shooting, whatever the case is, whether it's long-term patrols, whether it's kicking indoors, whether it's self-defense, a big portion of it breaks down into physical repetition. We're talking about training, obviously. So physical repetition and reaction time. So if I take, this is obviously an airsoft gun, so is that, but if I take this one and I practice putting in my shoulder, coming up, coming from sling point, coming from it being on my back on a 2-point to there, coming from dangling on a 1-point, 2-point, whatever the case is, going up, turning it off safe, putting putting rounds where I want them, even if it's just across the garage, there's no difference other than maybe some weight between going through my manipulations with this, if I choose to, do the bolt stuff, right? Obviously, for those of you who are new to the channel, everything's reversed. I am a left-handed shooter. This is a right-handed AR, so I can go through all my weapon manipulations in a safe environment with these and do all the same things that I would dry firing, but with these, and it's essentially the same, right? Obviously, like I said, there might be some weight differences. If you're practicing reloads with a gas pistol, they have the feed lips on there that might hang you up a little bit more than having a normal pistol, but at the end of the day, you're still getting reps in, you're still doing all the same things. So if you're looking for an alternative, both safer and also something you can actually, put rounds on target in a cheap and safe manner from something, across the garage or whatever the case is, as long, wear your eye pro and make sure there's no one running about behind or in front of the target. But if I want to practice my dry fire, maybe the trigger is going to be a little bit different, right? But it's pretty much all the same. My dog's running about, so if you hear him in the background, he loves the sound of airsoft guns for some reason. But obviously it's clear or whatever. But so if I want to go through, if I set this rifle up like my real rifle, and I want to go through weapons manipulations, maybe clearing the rooms in my house, it's a great, safer alternative for that. So just, even if you're not talking about playing, Airsoft already translates into real steel just on that, right? Being that it is a safer and cheaper alternative for dry fire. Same thing, you can practice coming out in and out of a holster, all those things with the pistol side of things. So just on that, it translates. Now, does it translate to the combat side of things? And now, I'm not saying I was a door kicker. We got rockets shot at us, and that's about it. That's about the extent of my real world combat experience. Um, but does playing the game of airsoft translate? And I would argue yes, and I would argue also more than most of the flat range Instagram stuff you see out there, right? Now again, not knocking them. I like to strap on gear and go shoot people with plastic BBs. That's my hobby. Your hobby is working a flat range. Good on you. Especially if you're getting into the competition side, good on you. Have fun with it, right? Whatever gets you off the couch gets you moving, and hopefully it's promoting the Second Amendment, right? So, but which one benefits you more? And it's really a cultural thing, right? It's not so much can airsoft beat flat range for training, can flat range beat airsoft for training, because it's a cultural thing. And obviously, yes, these don't have recoil. Even the gas blowback, electric blowback, whatever recoil, whatever thing you're doing, there are no airsoft replicas that replicate real firearm recoil at the levels you're going to get with, self-defense or military loads, right? So, you get some amount of recoil management, things like that. But the thing of it is that you watch a lot of these people working flat ranges. Most of them, unless they're specifically training for like a military environment or something like that, most of them aren't using cover. Most of them aren't gaining cover for reloads or shooting from cover, shooting from more unconventional situations. A lot of them aren't, if they're wearing body armor, aren't presenting it to the target. For those of you who don't know, body armor does cover a limited amount of your body. And so when you're coming up on target, you want to present that body armor to the target. If I come bladed into the target, then I'm exposing empty areas. Even if I'm wearing my side sappies or side plates or whatever, you still got exposed under the armpit that you can't really cover. You still got more exposed underneath sometimes that you can't cover. So if I'm on target and I'm bladed, I'm gonna shoot better, probably, but I'm not utilizing the body armor, and you see that a lot when people are working flat ranges. So now that obviously isn't fixed by airsoft, right? Unless you don't like the feel of BBs hitting you and you're kind of hiding behind your probably foam-filled plate carriers. Most of the time, you're not utilizing body armor when you're playing airsoft either. But you are utilizing cover. And there's a difference between I get behind cover, behind this block, and lean out into a proper shooting position and fire these shots slow and accurate. There's a difference between that and presenting a limited engagement target while getting shots on target, and also utilizing weird cover, right? Especially if you're going to the paintball parks, a lot of that stuff doesn't stop BB, so you have to figure out how to contort your body behind this piece of cover. Now, obviously, you can make the argument that plywood doesn't constitute cover for real steel ammo, and that's true. But I would argue that if you're actually playing the game of airsoft and you're utilizing cover, like you should be, then you're getting more used to utilizing cover, which is going to translate into real steel as well. And I'm not saying like real steel is the goal that we should be using airsoft to get to. So obviously they're their own hobbies, they're their own things, right? But this is something that gets argued quite a bit in the airsoft community and the real steel community. So I figured I'd weigh in on it. So airsoft teaches you to use cover. It teaches you to use communication, hopefully. And it helps you get the reps in, it helps you get the physical exercise, right? Because I can walk around a flat range, shooting my targets, doing what I need to, maybe speed walking, but I'm probably running at most like a 2 minute event, 2 minute string, whatever the case is. With Airsoft, I might put on all of my gear and maybe not weighted plates. Not everyone runs those, but I'm going to put on all the rest of the gear and have the rifle, maybe a pistol, maybe whatever. So I'm going to be weighed down, and I'm going to be dynamically, hopefully, moving for up to a full weekend, right? So you go to the bigger mill sims, you might be walking, 10 plus miles over the course of the weekend in full kit while having to clear rooms at certain parts, maybe working through a woodland area at certain parts, and it teaches you a lot of, or it gets you in better shape. It gets you used to wearing that stuff. So, because one thing going from, you're just working out to wearing body armor, it weighs differently on your body. It forces you to kind of move in certain ways. It kind of forces you to do certain things. And like I said, weighing down certain ways, like, sure, you might be able to shrug a couple 100 pounds repeatedly, but having 10, 20 pounds of sappies on you, or, and the combat load of, 600 rounds, or or 300 rounds, or personally, I had like 180 when I was deployed. So that adds some weight to it. So you're talking, 20, 30 pounds of gear, maybe more, maybe less. And it's weighing down on your shoulders for hours and hours at a time. And that's a different kind of endurance that you can get through Airsoft, obviously, if you're wearing weighted plates and doing all those things, if you're approaching it from that mindset already, that you're probably not going to get working flat range, right? Now, obviously, there are some people like, Grand Thumb, right? Who they're probably on the range, they're probably getting those reps in. But, seeing a, XYZ Instagrammer sitting there and shooting fast, transitioning, shooting fast, transitioning, shooting fast, that's all well and great, but you're standing out in the open, which, pretty much any airsofter who's been around for a minute knows that that's just begging to be shot, right? And you ask the military guys, law enforcement professional, whatever, they're probably going to tell you the same thing, that if I go out in the middle of a street or the into any open environment and I do have 3 targets set up, first thing I need to do is probably get cover, because there's 3 people, and yeah, I might be returning fire while I'm getting to cover, but if I'm trying to square off against 3 different people and I'm coming from low ready, or even just slightly low ready, right? I'm probably going to lose that gunfight, right? So I need to get cover while returning suppressing fire, maybe. And Airsoft can teach those habits. Now, what I will say is a lot of people don't approach Airsoft from that mindset of a training aspect. And that's fine, because just like paintball or even golf, it's just a hobby. It's meant to have fun. You can use it for other things. You can use golf for physical activity. You can walk instead of using a cart, right? But at the end of the day, it's a hobby. It's meant to have fun. There are plenty of airsofters, different cultures within Airsoft, that they are not using it in a way to train, and they're moving dynamically, but in a completely different way. And you can look at like Speedsoft for a great example of that. And again, I'm not knocking Speedsoft, because there's a completely different level of physical ability that I don't have, There's a different skill set with it that I don't necessarily have. Um, but it's just different because most of that stuff will probably just get you shot if you try and use it in the real world, right? There's other problems. Respawns are a big one. I do not like CQB and Airsoft because of respawns, because I can take my team of 4 or 5 people, or even just by myself if I'm doing solo room clearing. And as Gunfather Milsom has pointed out on several of his videos, you can clear that building safely and effectively even by one person if you're doing it right. Is it better to have a team? Yes. But, it's going around, clearing buildings, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you can clear most of a field by yourself. The difference is in Airsoft, one, you got more people sprinting around because they're not concerned for their safety. And I don't mean safety from a Airsoft perspective, because hopefully they're wearing glasses, wearing lower face protection, all the good things, right? Acting in a safe manner, but they're also probably not concerned about their theoretical, like real world, oh, I might get shot kind of safety. So that's an issue. The other part of it, the other problem with it is that they're not worried about their safety because they can respawn, right? And that's a big deal because it does two things. One, it allows you to maneuver with more confidence because, oh, if I get shot, I'm walking 100 feet that way, respawning and coming back. That leads into the second problem with using the Airsoft games themselves. Outside of mil sims that have longer respawns and medic rules and things like that, than just talking about your normal games. The problem with CQB is that if me and maybe 2 or 3 other people, 4 other people, whatever the case is, or maybe me by myself, if I'm clearing rooms, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, I'm pieing the corners and I'm doing it safely and effectively, and I'm moving through, getting maybe getting my kills, but not actually and clearing the rooms, right? What might happen with that is that first person I kill, if it takes 2 minutes for me to get through the next room and maybe the room after, because I'm moving nice and slow, doing pieing, and I'm not getting shot, but I'm shooting other people, the problem then is that first person out that I killed is going to be able to sprint back and maybe just come up behind me and my buddies, because now they know where we are, and shoot us all up, right? So that's an issue for the realism or training aspect, right? So yeah, so that's a problem. If you're thinking about using the games themselves as a training environment. However, I would argue that there's enough beneficial things that you can get from it that it kind of outweighs that. A good example of that is just from the perspective of doing reps, right? Coming from low port, coming up, flipping off safe, firing, flipping back on safe, low port, high port, or not high port, aiming down sights, firing, coming down, as the case is, right? I'm not, if I mess up, I'm not going to stop, right? I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it until I can come up nice and smoothly, flip off the safe, pull the trigger, come down, put it back on safe in a nice fluid motion, right? Yes, I shoot with my middle finger sometimes. But it's really only if I need to turn on and off the safety, which that can be its own video. But normally if I have to do something quick and I need to turn it off safe, I'll turn it off safe, fire with my middle finger, and then I can pull the hand back, breaking the grip, coming back down, and turning off the safety. And even for real steel, I've never had an issue with accuracy doing that kind of stuff. Now for longer engagements, obviously I'm going to turn it off safe first, get a good pistol grip on there, take my time, line up my sights, fire, great, and then go about my business. Most airsoft games don't use the safety. I only use the safety for the staging area, and that's even a maybe, um, because how I use my gear. But so I'm not going to just stop, right? I'm going to keep doing it until I can get it where I'm happy with it and where it's a good thing. So going through rooms and clearing, if someone does rush up and shoot you from behind because you killed them earlier, go back, start again, and you get more reps in. And now like real world people should know, to have a guy watching the back too. So, and then you can learn from that and you can train that and you can get better over time. So I would argue that while that is a problem with CQB, it is also something that can be used to an advantage for training. Yeah, so of course, like I've said already, there's recoil problems and there's other things with airsoft that don't make it a perfect training tool, but using it to supplement, using it to do those kind of things is a great tool for real steel, and a lot of it does translate, especially the physical fitness side, the reaction time side, and all of those things. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective, is that yes, you're dry firing, yes, you're doing all these other things, but the main takeaways, and what I don't see a lot from the Instagram or YouTube or flat range guys, is that airsoft teaches you to use cover. Even if you're doing speed soft, airsoft teaches to use cover, and it teaches reaction time, and it teaches physical fitness. So that's just my perspective. Obviously, if you have other opinions on the matter, feel free to drop them in the comments. That's just sharing my experience and my opinions on the matters. And it looks like my dog wants to go back inside, so I'm going to wrap up there. So until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.